how sad all my craft look in there. At least the wind's chilled out a little bit. It's just been 2 weeks of this non-stop. Oh my god, the sun's out. The sun's out. Quick. I'll take that. Chuck all this stuff in here again. Have another attempt at this. Secretly, I have attempted this. That's covered in sand. That's not good. Secretly, I did attempt this video a couple of days ago with very, very average results. But yeah, it was just too windy and too wet. And all I did is get soaked and angry. What have we got? Have we got everything in there? Okay, that, and let's get what I forgot last time, which made it really hard in the wind. These. How many go out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because most of the time I'm on sand, aren't I? Batteries, knife. What else? Oh, we'll take that salt that I made, just in case for some reason we did somehow manage to catch a fish. But that's not really the intention of this video. We're going to take you. Perfect, you're rigged up with a slug on you. I guess we could take... Oh, let's just roll with that. Oh, got a flatfish. It's a bit of wind, but it's all coming from just over this side here, so it's pretty protected here. So it was worth the drive down. It's not too far, it's pretty sort of local, but you sort of got to go out and back in. But yeah, I guess first things first, I guess you'll notice, I'm sorry about the lack of videos, but yeah, it's been pretty crazy weather, and there's been a few things going on that just have stopped me from just cranking out the videos. Mainly the weather, but a few family things as well. And you'll probably notice that I've got a new car now. So this is the new wagon. So we took a little while to find one that was in good condition. So it's a bit of an end of the era. I really do love my Subaru, but unfortunately we got to the point where I think there was a few key moments on that Sydney road trip, and then a few other times where I've gone, man, this car is just getting a little bit inappropriate for what I do. One was getting stuck at ramps at low tide or high tide, particularly high tide actually, because the tide will come up and then the ramp gets shallow, and then all the other four-wheel drives can just back in, just go a couple of inches in the water, but my car could not go in the water, so I had to wait until mid to low tide. But not just that, like I went to a couple of ramps down south and we got caught where there was surges, or even at a ramp where someone comes past fast and there's a bit of wake. Like I had that Subaru, there was 1 or 2 times where I was like, man, like the mufflers and everything all the way back up to halfway to the top of the wheels went underwater. I was like, man, this is not good long term. So slightly bigger boat and towing more stuff has become a bit of an issue with the Subaru. So as much as the station wagon was all right, and I did like the zippiness of it, and coming from the Rex, it was sort of a nice sort of happy medium point. But now it's come time to face the facts and get a 4-wheel drive. So we've gone and bit the bullet, and we sold the Subaru over the last couple of weeks, and then we took a while to have a look into getting this one. But yeah, like I'm a glutton for punishment, and we've gone a Discovery 3. So look, I like the wife's car, and she's got the diesel version. This is actually a petrol version, but hopefully that'll give me slightly less troubles, if not a little bit more fuel costs. But you know, by the time I sort of work out how many Ks it's done and how much maintenance needs to be done to the diesel, I reckon probably the petrol might work out to be the better choice, so hopefully we'll see. But we've got one of each now, so I don't know why, but once you sort of start driving these cars, like I looked at Prados, I probably couldn't afford most of the Toyotas, and the ones I was looking at had, you know, 350 to 400,000 Ks on it, whereas I got this one as a very reasonable price, and for what you get, bang for buck, these things are incredible. Like you get, like there's so much more spacious inside, you get all the gadgets up the front. Hopefully they all keep running, but this one is literally immaculate. I don't know if you can see, but you can see everything about it is like in very, very good condition. So took some time to find, but we got a good one hopefully, and fingers crossed, because obviously there's a bit of stigma attached to the Discoveries or Land Rovers in general. But you know what, when I added up, we had 1 or 2 big fixes on the wipes, but all in all it hasn't really cost that much more than you know, other cars that we've owned. So I don't know, fingers crossed. But what we want to do is we want to get it decked out a little bit. We'll I don't know, maybe drawers, I don't know, or something, but I want this whole section to be stay pretty much open. So I don't know, maybe one drawer and a fridge on this side, and maybe a little power station. So I've got a little power station in mind that can have some solar on the roof. Funnily enough, I was like whinging about how I didn't have enough money to buy new roof racks, but then funnily enough, I took the Subaru racks off, and somehow, even though the bars don't go that far across, the fitment kit actually fit these little attachment points. So that actually worked out. It was a bit of a happy accident. So for now, we can have the lock racks and the kayak gear already on top, and I didn't even have to spend any money. So I'm glad I took those off in the end. But yeah, there's things about this car, like this, see the way this tailgate folds down. You can cook and do things on here, so you don't really need big slide out drawers. And you've got a bit of protection from the roof here in the rain, and if it does rain heavy, I'm going to get a tarp or something that I can drape over the sides, or you could even get a rear awning or something, but whether I'll even bother. You slowly could have slickified it, blackened out the wheels the other day, and we're just going to slowly upgrade it to a point where I'm happy with it, but I don't want to go too nuts. I just want it to be nice and solid. And the difference is, like, once these all fold back and it folds flat, it's pretty amazing the amount of space you've got in here. I can lie flat. You basically got a double bed easy, but one side is like all for just gear. But you know, with the boat I probably don't even need that much room these days. But one side I can just have as a bed, and the other side I can have a little table. So the few trips that I have done in my wife's Discovery have been really comfortable, and I liked taking the Subaru because I had that eyesight driving thing and everything like that, so it made it a little easier. But just because it's my car as well, you know, I felt like I'm taking my car and sort of having it the way I like it. But the reality is, when I did the few trips and, you know, slept in the back, I think I did a Sydney Rose trip and then another one further up the coast, and what I could do in this car was way cooler. Like, I could sit up, because the roof's nice and high, I could sit up in the back and edit. I could do like, I can get from the front, so a lot of the time when I'm hopping in, like say in the city or in a built-up area where I don't want people to see me hopping into the back to sleep in the car, because I do sleep in the car pretty much just about every big long trip I do, I can get from the front into the back, and it's a huge area to work with. I can have a fridge, I can do all those things. I don't have to get out of the car and be seen locking doors and things like that, so I can go a bit stealth if I need to. All of those things add up to making this a much more practical car moving forward. So, and we did like a trip to the gorge recently, and up like we did like a bit of four-wheel driving. In like after that trip I was like, nah, I've got to get myself my own four-wheel drive. So here we are. So we'll slowly kit it out. I don't think I want to become some kind of overlanding channel, but I will probably maybe keep you updated, because it's sort of like kitting out the boat. There'll be some fun things to add, and I think it'll be worth showing. But let's grab our thing. What we really wanted to come down here to do is just to walk down here and see if we can set up the new tent setup, which I want to roll with. Do we bother trying to fish? I reckon it's maybe a bit of a lost cause, I think. Pinch the tow bar off the wife's car, but then I found that we actually have the other tow bar in, like, on this side compartment, which is cool. So yeah, probably should return that. She was a bit upset. I was using her car as parts. Oh, 3 prongs. I'd have them, I don't even trip. Good stick hut. There's all the big timber washed down from the rain. It collects in spots like this, and then everyone builds stick huts along the beach. It's pretty cool. Look at that. That is a pretty cool seat. Oh, that's great. Yeah. No, maybe we'll just try and set it up just next to the stick hut. Okay. Alright. So, what we're doing today is, we've got these little pegs here as well, but I think the reality is these pegs are no good for sand. And you can see I tried to do this video recently, and the pegs just fall straight through the sand. Although, you know what, surprisingly they did hold for a bit, but it was also surprisingly super windy. So what I will get out of there though is this bit of cord. We might be able to use that for something. Okay, so any of you that follow the channel regularly know that it was the Sand Cay trip, so not the trip the last island trip, because that was in the boat and we basically just stayed in the boat. But we still want to do the tent camping. I'm just going to go under here and hide from the wind. Hey, it's a pretty cool spot to hide from the wind. Look at that. What we want to do is try and set up the TARP tent in a few, maybe, or just one configuration in particular is what I want to do. Now, I used to use a hoochie, like 2 army hoochies clipped together, and I made a bug net for that, which worked out great. But I used one half of that for the boat tent, and I've got something in mind for Mark II of that boat tent, which I'm probably going to use the other side for as well. So we're still using that hoochie, but I bought the tarp for the boat originally to use as the tent, but then I couldn't bring myself to cut it when I found out that the size wasn't right, the square wasn't going to work in the end. I thought it was going to be better, but turns out I needed a rectangle. So we used the old hoochies, which is probably just as well, because now I've got a new tarp, which is perfect for the tarp tent and using as a hoochie from this point on. And we got to still use our other stuff, so our other old hoochie, which at some point when my tent broke, so on the Sand Cay trip and over the years, basically the zips have been gumming up and getting worse, and the poles snapped at a few spots. So eventually basically it came time to replace that tent, but I didn't end up doing it because I was working on the boat tent. So now we're at a position where we need to get another tent set up for the island trips. I need something lightweight, and I've got this great tarp. So I was like, well, why don't we revisit the sort of like the hoochie style tarp setup? But I also want to try, there's another thing. Okay, so let's go and have a look. Sorry, it is getting a bit windier. But the tarp actually came with this little field guide, and here, I'll get this back in the holder so I can show you. But if you look at this, it has a whole stack of different sort of setups you can do. If you look here, and there's quite a few of them, but there was one in particular that I've seen someone else do. I think it's like Silly Swagman and a few other people have used like square tarps to make this tent, the tarp tent. So if we go through here, there's a couple of interesting looking ones, like this one looks pretty cool. And there's one really simple one that I reckon in the wind, if it was really, so obviously that's the kind of one I've used before plenty with the army hoochies, which is very simple, just like an A-frame style, which works great. And I've got a hanging bug net, so I can still use that. But oh yeah, this one, I was like, well, that's just the simplest thing ever. So if you're in a really serious situation where you need to get a shelter out real quick, that would probably be the go-to. But one thing on the islands I noticed is a lot of the time this style tent became a problem because there wasn't trees around. And yes, you can set up a pole and have guy ropes and it gets more complicated, but it's kind of by that stage you're starting to think, man, I just had a dome tent. So that's why I switched to the dome tent. But this is much more roomy, and you can sort of cook at the ends of here, and you've got more room for gear. So this style was actually really super handy. That's good in the wind and if you're in a rush. But there was one here that I wanted to try, so when I can't do that 2-tree setup, where is it? This one, this is the one. So it's basically freestanding as long as you've got a pole. So whether it's an oar or something from the boat, or I can just find a stick, and there's plenty of sticks around here, like this one right here, that looks like it would be suitable if we break this bit off. But yeah, so it's as simple as finding a stick like that, which I should be able to find on the island. And then setting up this style tent. But it all depends as well on how easy it is. There is still a bit of wind coming through here right now though, so that's putting a little bit of a dampener on it. It's tricky to put tarp tents up in the wind sometimes, especially when you've never done it before. So everything I've seen suggests that it's best to set up the back, so which is this back section here, it says back there too, and peg it out so the back is facing into the wind. So the wind's coming from here, so we want to peg it so the front door is going to be actually away from the wind. So let's get the tarp out and we'll give it a crack and we'll see if we can get this going on. It's a bit of a, yeah, it's hard to follow these diagrams, but I have seen someone do it on video as well, so hopefully that works out for me. Let's get this down. Here's our ridge line. Okay. And we probably should have got our tent pegs because it is still a bit windy. It's going to blow away in a sec. So, do I have enough pegs? I'm not sure. Okay. So, hopefully these pegs fit through. Oh yeah, sweet. Just get these 2 pegs in and then we can get some better footage once our tarp's not blowing away. Cool, stay. We'll peg this one in here. So I might need to readjust this, we'll just have to see how well I do it. Since it's sort of the first time I've actually attempted it. I think you tuck that under there. And we do the same on the other side. There's 2 more pegs at the front. I actually think I need 8 pegs for this setup. Let's pull this straight. And I think what it was is you measure, you go into this one and then in a little bit more. So we've got to make it just even on each side. Now I think there was a trick to this one. That's right, so you've got to do that, but then you get this end bit and then we hook it on. That's right, and it had to go in a bit. So let's just get it through here first. Okay, so that was our mark that we made then. So it's in that, so tight from here. So I'll turn that around so it's nice and tight on there. So, but in that distance from the back. So it's sort of coming in like a sort of a, what is it, like a hexagon shape? Yeah, I reckon further back. Cool. And then, what was it, in here, and then about that much, so we'll make a mark. And we'll thread this one through as well. Now we want this nice and tight from the back, and then straight in down here. This is going to be interesting. Alright. Well, it's good that we're doing it all on sand, because a lot of these islands are typically going to be just sand. And that's all we'll have to work with. So, what are we going to do here? So what we need to do is prop up the center with the pole, and that's about it, I think. And then you can peg out the other bits with some guide ropes, but I'll figure that out in a sec. But I need a stick. This one looks good. And what I want to do is make sure that the top doesn't go through the tarp. So this is the more sort of nicer end to do that with. We could find something to wrap around it. Probably should have brought my jumper or a hat or something. What have we got in here? Yeah, nothing. Oh, I could use the bag that I had here, and we could double it over a few times. This is just for this test. What I could do is get something a bit better, but we'll just put that over it like that just to protect it a little bit. Okay, now what I've got to do is I've got to crawl in at the front and just prop it up, and hopefully that works. Ooh, windy. Okay, so my pole's probably too tall, I think. So what we need to do is get the pole length right. So we'll break it down a bit. Or a lot. That was too much, so that's annoying because I just broke my pole too much. What I probably want to do is prop it up against this sort of center bit here where there's a bit more reinforcing. So let's go get another stick. That was a bummer. I had the perfect stick and I just completely broke it. Okay, so we've sorted out another stick. We got to found this one up in the bush there, nice and straight, which I like, but it's a bit thin and flimsy, so hopefully it doesn't snap. But we'll get this sorted out again. And just overlap it a few times. Get that on there. Alright, in we go. Let's try it again. So you just basically fall into that space there. Just going to put it in this reinforcement here. Okay, it's holding, it's holding. Moving back out, that looks pretty good actually. Yeah, oh, there's actually quite a lot of room. Oh, look how much pressure is on there from the back and the wind. There's a lot of wind still, it's quite steady. If it wasn't as windy, that would actually pull out nice and straight, I'd say. But there's still a fair bit of room in there, easily enough to sleep in there. Yeah, let's get these guys on. So we need to put some guides to sort that front out and then it'd actually clean it up a fair bit. What do we got here? Just need a bit of this cord. Is this actually 4 little guy ropes? That's cool. If it is 4 separate ropes, that's really cool that they include that. Because look, each one's got a little guy slider on it. Let's just pop these down, see if we can separate one. Of course it's going to get a tangle. Oh, there, one. So they are all separate little guy ropes. That's awesome. Okay, there's 2. Geez, a lot of it's very windy. It's not the most ideal scenario, but you know what? It also means that it's a realistic test. Look at that. So these little guys, look, they slide up, and then once the pressure's on, look, it's like a little clam cleat there, and it locks into place. That's awesome. All right, let's get these 2 on. I think we need 1 on either side of these flaps, I think. Yeah, so 1 on either side here, and then the center gets 1 as well. Mental note, Rod: never try and do a tent setup video in the wind again. And I'm going to need those other pegs because I need more pegs as well. Here, I'll tie this one on too. Silly idea, really, isn't? But you know what? There's no better way to test out whether a tent's going to work than testing it in the wind, is there? So even though it seems like this is taking a bit of time, but it's only because I don't know what I'm doing and I'm mucking around a bit. But the reality is this hasn't been really that tricky a process. So we'll see how well these hold in the sand. Obviously I need to get more tent pegs. That's one thing that this setup does do, is use a lot of tent pegs. Just peg this one back here. See how well that holds. Looks like it's going to hold just fine. Second flap here. Don't need to go too nuts there, as long as it's holding out of the way. And final guy rope, just in the center here. Just doing little bow lines here. Hey, now that looks more like the picture and everything else I've seen. Yeah, how long are we going to do this one? Not too long. Yeah, looks good to me. Actually, you want it kind of back here because it pulls the front nicely, doesn't it? Maybe, how do we undo this again? Oh yeah, look, release the cleat. That's awesome. Those little cleat things are awesome. Oh, hang on. Was a bit of pigweed there, you can eat that. Alright, straight in. Nice. Alright. Could actually pull this back a little more. So, all in all, look at that. We have a tent. And it looks pretty good. Especially if it can stand up to this wind. There's big gusts here and there. Right now it's just this steady wind. It doesn't seem that windy, but it is. I've got like a wind buff on my camera. So yeah, it's just like a steady wind with an odd gust. All right, let's get in. Let's give it a crack. Yeah, okay, we're in. No, this would be very doable. Like, look, like if I stretch my, so that stick is in the center point, and if I've got my legs out here, look, I've got heaps of room. Like I didn't want to get this sandy, but look, my feet aren't at the end there, and if I look back this way, plenty of sleeping room. So you'd obviously sleep at the back. You'd obviously have more room when this wind wasn't pushing so hard against this bit, because it's really flattening the back end of the tent down. And I guess this could go a bit straighter, this pole here. But plenty of room for gear. Enough of an opening, I think, to cook at the front here. The rain would just come down here. But no, very workable. I don't know how I'd go about trying to protect myself from bugs in this setup though. That's one thing that comes to mind. So the bug tent's definitely, it needs to sort of be stretched between two things, and there isn't really 2 points to stretch it out to. So that could be an issue. Like you could make it work, but it'd be pretty sketchy. I'll tell you what, it's cooking in here though, it's pretty hot. That's one thing to consider as well. Okay, so we'll jump out. Yeah, so when we're talking about it and thinking about it just now quickly, I can see a few things that make me think, definitely a good test. Look at that. And look how much wind. It really is copping a lot of wind there. Like that's a lot for it to deal with. And it does, like it's the fact that it scoops and slopes up like that. I think with as long as you got a good strong pole in there, I think you'd be able to take a lot more wind actually, because it just sort of scoops up. But you're missing a whole lot of the tent. Like the setup would be much bigger in the right conditions. Yeah. So positives are definitely, like, it's actually relatively easy to set up. I know it took me a little while and a bit of mucking around, but yeah, I think I'd get a lot faster at that and get better at picking the right stick and things like that. Pros, definitely, let's get back in. Pros, definitely the simplicity of one stick. Cons, does use a lot of pegs. I don't know. Bug net, it does worry me a bit. So on some islands that wouldn't be a problem, but others that would be a big problem. Plenty of room here though, and room for gear. That's one thing, I always tried to find a tent with some little vestibules, and it's surprisingly hard to find one with a good size vestibule, whereas this, and that's why I like the two hoochies hooked together, is because you could sleep here and you'd have lots of room for your gear and fuel tanks and extra bits, and then you could even cook at the entrance at either side. So it sort of ticked a lot of boxes and a lot of airflow through. So this one doesn't have a huge amount of airflow through. I guess, you know what, if you prop that little bit, if you propped it up a bit at the back though, and it was a wind, it would actually suck a lot of air through it. So there's probably ways to sort of do that and get a bit more flow through. I think I'd need to get something, probably maybe a bottle, like a plastic bottle over the top here would actually be perfect to give it a nice broad sort of mounting point, so it doesn't put too much pressure on the tarp. Yeah, totally workable though. I can see this working in certain situations, and that I think is what's so important about this tarp, is moving forward I want something that's versatile, and the tent's great in some situations but not great in others. Hoochie was great in most situations but not in others as well, but this tarp should actually cover quite a few bases for me. So I think moving forward, this is going to be the new setup. I think we're going to try tarp camping again and just roll with the tarp. This is sort of slightly more versatile because of the shape, and it's 3 meters. So hopefully we can just use one tarp as our tent from this point on. No zippers to rust and get ruined. And I know people put wax and oil and different things on them, but it's, you know, like I'd prefer to just eliminate that issue altogether. So this tarp looks like it's going to tick a lot of boxes for me. Yeah, that's a success. And we know we can set up in the A-frame style. We have done an island trip where we didn't have trees, or we only had one tree, and we got the paddle, I think we did, and we put some guys off that. So we've got lots of options with this, and I think we can make it work. And of course, we've also got the boat tent. So the boat tent will be doing a lot of heavy lifting, I think, but there'll be lots of islands where we want to spread it out, and we want to get up on the island, stay a night, and I don't want to miss that element and go for an explore on the islands. There's definitely still going to do that, so I think this is gonna, yeah, this is gonna help. And then she comes down, get my bag back. So that pole, let's see, it came up to probably about my sternum. Seems to be about the pole length I need. But yeah, we'll muck around with that a little bit more. And then turns out it takes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pegs. That is a lot of pegs. That is one sort of consideration. Not a big deal, but yeah, it's just more gear to carry, isn't it? But you know, we can manage, we can handle that, I guess. Alright, well, in this wind, stuffing it seemed to be fine, but to be honest, now that I've done it, oh look, it's still fine, but when I folded it, it was just a little bit more compact, and it'll come out a bit better. So when I get home, I might free fold it. You can see, you won't be able to see it on this camera, but there's some pretty serious swell every now and then rolling through the bar. Definitely not heading out today. Now, I think next week it's going to be pretty good up the coast, so I might try and shoot up and get an island video out straight away as soon as it's good enough, and at least we don't have to worry about bars up there, so we can as long as it's not too windy, we can fish and we can do anything we want. Get the boat back out, and then oh, and my passport gets here today. I don't know if you don't follow my Instagram, go over and follow that as well if you want, because I put an update up in regards of kayak fishing, and there's an opportunity that's come up, and hopefully this all comes to fruition. It seems like it will, but I literally just rushed out to get my passport because I realized it was expired. But hopefully we're getting a trip booked to South Africa, so hopefully we'll be fishing the big kayak comp run by Stealth Kayaks over there, which is the Mozambique comp. So we drive up from South Africa up into Mozambique. It'll be a pretty epic adventure, so hopefully look, as soon as that passport gets here, we can look at booking tickets, and you know, once those tickets are booked, we'll be doing that. So that'll be like late June, I'd say. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Back to the car. Sweet Defender pulled in behind me, part of the crew. But yeah, no, I think this tail will be perfect for what I do, and still a little bit of modern convenience, because yeah, like you go, you know, it can get pretty agricultural when you get back into some of the older cars, make that highway drive just that bit better. But yeah, and unlike some of the other guys on YouTube, I'm not in a position, you know, with kids and family and just the state of the channel, I guess, in general, I'm not in a position to just go and blow huge money on a brand new Land Cruiser and get it all fitted out for me. So we'll be hacking away at this one myself, and we'll do a bit of DIY to make it look good, and supply and do all those good things that we need to do. Anyway, yeah.